heavens with a single punch. Rise to the peak of all power. All I did was drink a little too much at the graduation party. And when I woke up, I found myself in another world. Who would believe this? Okay, reincarnation is reincarnation, but can I have a slightly better starting point? The world he had transmigrated into was called Blue Star. Its civilization and technological development weren't much different from his previous world. But this place had two things that defied all previous understanding: ferocious beasts and superpowers. Ferocious beasts were bloodthirsty and terrifying creatures wreaking havoc across Blue Star. Superpowers, on the other hand, were the source of humanity's strength in their resistance against these monsters. According to the memories in his mind, his current body was still named Xu Jingming, a 12th grade student at Zhangcheng No. 2 High School. Aside from a face that was somewhat more striking than average, everything else about him was as ordinary as could be. Even the superpower he awakened was just an E-rank ability, weak electricity. Superpower, Xu Jingming murmured, raising his right hand and snapping his fingers. Between his fingers, faint threads of blue electricity sparked and flickered. If this were his old world, that trick alone might have been enough to shock people into awe. But on Blue Star, it wasn't anything special. Superpowers on Blue Star were divided into categories: elemental, enhancement, mental, recovery, nature, and special. Everyone in this world awakened their superpower at the age of 16, becoming what they called superpower users. Superpowers weren't just categorized by type, but also by quality. According to Blue Star's evaluation system, superpowers were ranked into 9 grades: SSS, SS, SA, B, C, D, E, F. Most people could only awaken D or E rank abilities. Only a few had the potential to reach C or B rank. And those who awakened an A- rank power were considered blessed by the heavens, pursued by society, and given elite status. As for SSS, or even SSS ranks, those were exceptionally rare existences, sometimes only appearing once every several years, or even decades. Currently, Xu Jingming was sitting in his classroom, and a new lesson had just begun. Standing at the front was a middle-aged man, the homeroom teacher of Class 12A5, Mr. Chen Fan. 12 years of study, all for today. The teacher said solemnly. The college entrance exams are just around the corner. Stay focused. Those of you taking the academic track, remember to check your pens, notebooks, and test supplies tonight. As for those of you in the martial track, make sure your combat gear and weapons are ready. I'll say this one last time: the military exams come with the risk of death. Anyone with a superpower ranked below D should not take the martial track. Before 9 p.m. tonight, you can still change your choice. If anyone wants to switch, come see me. As he spoke, the teacher's gaze fell on Xu Jingming. Jingming smiled. Of course he understood what the teacher meant. After all, among the students in Class 12A5, he was the only one with an E-rank ability who still chose the martial track. Based on past data, most students who died during the martial exam had powers ranked D or lower. Even though he only had an E-rank ability, Xu Jingming's predecessor had stubbornly chosen the martial path. And Jingming wholeheartedly agreed with that decision. Because choosing the martial track still gave him a chance to fight back, a chance to change his fate. But if he didn't even dare take that step, then he'd truly be nothing more than just another ordinary person. In the world where Xu Jingming now lived, universities were divided into 2 main types: academic universities, which focused on scholarly education, and superpower universities, which trained individuals in extraordinary combat and survival abilities. Accordingly, the National College Entrance Exam was also split into 2 formats: the academic exam and the martial exam. The academic exam was simple: sit in a room and write your answers. But the martial exam was a different beast entirely. Candidates had to don combat suits, wield real weapons, enter a designated test zone, and risk their lives fighting ferocious beasts. Their scores would be based on the number and level of beasts they managed to slay. Choosing between the academic or martial track was entirely up to each student. But there was an important distinction: even after awakening a superpower, one was still only known as a newly awakened, not yet a true wielder of power. Only after a period of intense training could a person transition from a newly awakened into a true superpower user, someone capable of fighting ferocious beasts head-on. Superpower users were ranked from Tier 1 to Tier 9, with each tier further broken down into lower, middle, and upper stages. However, if one could earn admission to a superpower university and receive proper instruction from professional trainers, This process could be greatly accelerated. That was why the college entrance exam was such a pivotal moment. But before Xu Jingming could even think about those future challenges, he had to deal with the present-day discrimination that came with having such a low-ranked ability. A male classmate walked up, his tone dripping with contempt. The teacher already said it clearly, and you still insist on taking the military entrance exam? You're a bottom-tier loser stuck at rank E. You'll tarnish the school's reputation if you apply for a superpower university. You should just take the academic exam, join some company after college, and live out your pitiful little life as a desk jockey. At that moment, a girl shouted from across the room, Huang Tian, stop bullying my friend. Huang Tian scowled but didn't want to waste more time arguing. He said coldly, I'll show you all who the real top dog is, tomorrow during the exam. As he turned to leave, he threw one last jab over his shoulder. You two better enjoy your last moments together. That loser's going to die during the test anyway. The girl, Lin Tianvian, looked at Jingming with concern. Don't listen to him, she said softly. Everyone has value. Even if you switch to the academic track and live in the city, that's still a good life. Jingming stayed silent. In this world, his parents had been killed by monsters, and he had been powerless to do anything about it. He never wanted to feel that helpless again. That night, Xu Jingming returned to the house his parents had left him, a small home and a little over 1 million yuan in death benefits. Beyond that, they had left him nothing else. So, when he walked through the front door, he was alone, but fortunately, in his previous life, Jingming had also been an orphan. He had long since grown used to the feeling of being alone. Besides, he now had something far more important to focus on. He needed to train. Not just to pass the exam, but to survive it. To defend against the threat of ferocious beasts. Every city was fortified with layers of protection, high-voltage electric grids, armed military units, and super-powered task forces. But nothing was foolproof. From time to time, some cities fell to beast hordes. The casualties were massive. Xu Jingming didn't want to stand helpless before such a disaster someday. But his E-rank power was drained after only a few basic training moves. He had been practicing with a spear for 2 years. And yet, his skill level was still beginner tier. However, the mortality rate among those below rank D was rising year by year. Wasn't this supposed to be a world with transmigration perks? Where's my system? Come on, save me already. Xu Jingming mumbled helplessly, and just as he finished speaking, a mechanical voice suddenly echoed in his mind. System activating. System successfully activated. Issuing beginner package. Beginner package issued successfully. Would you like to claim it now? Hearing the voice in his head, Xu Jingming's eyes immediately widened, and his mouth dropped open in disbelief. The system? There's really a system? After the initial shock came a wave of ecstatic joy. As someone who had transmigrated, he knew full well what a system meant. It was the chance to change fate and climb to the top. Taking a deep breath to calm himself, Xu Jingming didn't rush to claim the reward right away. Instead, he asked in his heart, what's in the beginner package? 200 ability points, and an S-rank ability, Violet Sky Divine Thunder. Xu Jingming felt like a bolt of lightning had struck his brain. His eyes lit up, and his breathing grew rapid. He wasn't sure what ability points were just yet, but an S-rank ability, he knew exactly what that meant. It was one of the rarest abilities on all of Blue Planet. In a major nation like Huaxia, it took 4 whole years for even one new S-rank ability user to appear. Those with S-rank abilities, as long as they didn't die prematurely, would inevitably rise to rule over a region, becoming an unmatched force. Still not daring to believe it, Xu Jingming confirmed once more. System, as long as I receive the newbie gift, I will immediately have an S-class ability? The system replied, that's right. Receiving an affirmative answer, Xu Jingming's eyes lit up once again. An S-rank ability. The chance to change his destiny had arrived. Looking at the glowing blue virtual interface in his mind, Jingming no longer hesitated. He slammed the claim button. Beginner package claimed. 200 ability points have been added to your account. Activating S-rank ability, Violet Sky Divine Thunder. Progress. 10%, 20%, 30%. A deep rumble echoed out as if infinite power was erupting from within Xu Jingming's body. Suddenly, countless streaks of violet blue lightning danced around him, radiating blinding light. His entire body transformed into a ball of lightning. The crackling sound of electricity rang out non-stop, and the surging thunder light exploded outward like a tsunami. Starting from the very spot where Xu Jingming stood, swallowing the entire living room. The sofa, the TV, the coffee table, anything the lightning touched exploded into fragments. The thunderbolts even ignited raging flames, blasting through the windows and shooting out into the sky. Oh my God, the house across the street is on fire. Call the fire department. Isn't that the house of the Wa kid? The explosion was so loud that it immediately caught the attention of the neighbors. Many panicked and called emergency services. But inside the house, Jingming was completely unaware. All he felt was a strange warmth surging through his body, as if it were overflowing with an indescribable force. 50%, 60%, 70%. The evolution process was still ongoing. And outside, perhaps due to the influence of the ability evolution, the once sunny afternoon suddenly turned dark. Thunderclouds rolled in, casting shadows like nightfall falling all at once. There was no rain, but thunder roared like drumbeats from the heavens. Within the heavy clouds, streaks of violet lightning flashed, like dragons roaring across the sky. Why did the sky go dark all of a sudden? That lightning is insane. I feel some kind of overwhelming pressure. This strange weather plunged the entire Zhang city into unease. Fearing a lightning-controlling beast might be approaching, the regional commander immediately issued an alert. All units stationed in Zhang City, go on full alert. 80%, 90%, 95%, 98%, 99%. Inside the room, Xu Jingming's evolution process was nearing completion. Suddenly, a massive purple bolt of lightning streaked down from the sky, crashing straight through the window and striking directly into Xu Jingming's body like a dragon descending from the heavens. At that very moment, the thunderclouds dispersed, and sunlight returned to the land. Xu Jingming had completed the evolution process. His ability had reached 100% synchronization. The lightning around Xu Jingming's body slowly receded like a retreating tide, gradually being absorbed back into him. After a long moment, Jingming slowly opened his eyes, a cold purple spark flickered in his pupils. The ability had evolved successfully. Jingming's entire body was brimming with power. Instinctively, he raised his right hand. With a single thought, countless streaks of purple lightning burst forth around his arm. Unlike the weak bluish-white sparks from before, these purple bolts carried a primal, violent aura, the kind that made people shiver just from sensing it. This was the true might of an S-rank ability, Violet Sky Divine Thunder. A brilliant light flashed in Jingming's eyes. He could feel it. If one of these lightning bolts struck a real person, it wouldn't just electrocute them, it would reduce them to ashes. However, this much chaos might have been a bit excessive. With a wry smile, Xu Jingming retracted the electric current surrounding him and scratched his head as he looked around the devastated living room. Thankfully, he had noticed something was off during the mutation process and managed to restrain the power in time, otherwise, it wouldn't have just been the living room that got destroyed. Despite his complaints, Xu Jingming was thrilled and sighed. After all, the stronger the ability, the greater the future potential. Right, there were still those 200 ability points from the starter package. What could they be used for? As soon as the thought crossed his mind, a system notification echoed in his head. Ability points can be earned by eliminating feral beasts. They can be used to level up your rank and enhance your skills. You can view your current points and upgrade options in the system interface. As soon as the system explained, Xu Jingming immediately understood. Ability points were just like Express in games. Kill monsters to level up. It was a simple mechanic, but incredibly effective. A confident smile tugged at the corners of his lips as he immediately pulled up his status screen. Name: Xu Jingming. Rank: Awakened. Ability: Violet Sky Divine Thunder, S rank. Physique: 121 Vital Energy. Spirit: 140 Hz. Skills: Spear Technique Basic. Thunder Flash Windbreaker Basic. Ability points: 200. The interface was short and straightforward, and the plus signs indicated which attributes could be upgraded. Looking at the status panel, it was clear that the 200 ability points could be spent either to boost his core stats or enhance his skills. So, what would be the most optimal investment? After a few seconds of contemplation, Xu Jingming made his decision. Tomorrow was the physical combat entrance exam. He had to use these points efficiently to maximize his combat power. Physique and spirit were the most essential foundations. Whether it was using martial skills or controlling abilities, both attributes were critically important. With that thought in mind, he split the 200 ability points evenly, 100 into physique and 100 into spirit, and then gave the command, System, allocate the points. As soon as he clicked the plus sign on the system panel, a surge of intense power suddenly erupted within his body. The power flowed like a mighty river, rushing through his veins with unstoppable force. Right after, his thoughts also became sharper and more focused. Jingming then swung his arms, moved around, and threw a few basic punches to feel the changes in his strength. He quickly realized that his control over the Violet Heaven Divine Thunder ability had also significantly improved. After all, supernatural abilities still stem from a person's physical and mental attributes. When these two stats increase, the power of one's abilities also grows stronger accordingly. Clenching his fists and feeling the strength surging through his blood vessels, along with the violet thunder crackling, ready to be summoned in his hands, Jingming couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. His gaze then returned once more to the system panel. Physique, 141 strength. Spirit, 160 Hz. Both of his base stats had increased by 20 points, meaning that each one ability point could be converted into 0.2 strength or 0.2 spirit Hz. The conversion rate was a bit low, but it was still a direct upgrade with no side effects. It was just a shame that the newbie gift pack only contained exactly 200 ability points. If there had been more, he could have gotten even stronger. But with his current strength, passing the university entrance exam for ability users would be a piece of cake. He didn't know where he ranked among the 700,000 applicants in Jiangnan province, but he was confident he could make it into the top elite tier. After all, many of the students taking the martial science exam this year had been trained by professional instructors since childhood and possessed truly terrifying strength. As an orphan, Jingming couldn't compete in terms of education and resources. But he had something those geniuses could never possess, a genuine S-rank ability. Without thinking further about the exam, he decided to head to the martial training hall to test out his newfound strength. Just then, a series of urgent knocks echoed through the room, loud and sudden. Before Jingming could even react, the door was kicked open with a bang, slamming hard against the wall with a thunderous crash. A group of people in orange uniforms rushed in, carrying water hoses like they were about to dive into a blazing inferno. When they saw that there was no fire at all, just a young man calmly standing in the middle of the room as if nothing had happened, the entire fire squad froze in confusion. They quickly apologized for breaking the door, explaining they had received a report that a fire had broken out in this apartment. Facing the sudden appearance of the firefighters, Jingming quickly explained that he had a lightning-type ability and had accidentally triggered some abnormal phenomena while training, but everything was under control now. After the team conducted a swift inspection of the apartment and confirmed there were no lingering hazards, they prepared to leave. One of them even offered to repair the door they'd kicked down. Just before leaving, the squad leader gave Jingming a glance and muttered under his breath, causing such a big commotion just from training. These kids these days are really something else. Once the fire squad had left, Jingming began preparing his gear to head to the training hall. Outside, a small crowd had gathered due to the incident. As soon as they saw him, someone walked over with concern. Xiao Ming, everything okay with that fire earlier? I'm fine. Uncle Yang, I got it under control, that's good. You look like you're about to go train again. Yes sir, just a bit more practice before the exam. Such dedication. The college entrance exam is tomorrow and you're still heading out to train. Jingming stepped out of the residential complex, caught a bus, and then transferred to the subway. Eventually, he stopped in front of a modern high-rise building. To advance from an awakened to a full-fledged ability user, training both physical and mental attributes was essential. Only through such training could one fully unleash the true potential of their abilities. However, not every family could afford to build a private training room for their children. That's why martial arts gyms specializing in training and providing facilities began springing up everywhere. Among them, the most prominent across the entire Great Sha Nation were Thunderclap Martial Hall and Violent Bear Martial Hall, two major franchises with branches in nearly every city across the country. Besides these two well-known names, Zhang City alone had over 100 privately owned martial halls of various sizes. But only Thunderclap Martial Hall offered free access to high school students. For that reason, Jingming had always chosen Thunderclap as his training ground. At the moment, the entrance of the martial hall was bustling with people, ranging from awakened individuals carrying weapons to fully qualified ability users. As soon as he entered, Jingming made his way straight to the third floor, the area he frequented the most. And right upon stepping into the lobby, he immediately spotted a familiar figure. It was a girl, around 1.7 meters tall, with a beautiful yet cold expression and an air of elegance. She wasn't carrying any weapons, just dressed in a simple everyday outfit. Her long, slender legs were exposed beneath a blue skirt, so fair they almost dazzled the eyes. Around her were a few stylishly dressed boys and girls, all exuding a haughty presence, clearly not ordinary people. Jingming smiled and greeted the girl. "Sis Chi, you came to Thunderclap Martial Hall too?" Tang Chi, his biological aunt's daughter, was also in 12th grade like him, just a few months older. However, the relationship between the two had never been particularly close. Seeing Jingming there, Tang Chi paused for a moment, then nodded lightly. "I'm just accompanying some friends here." "Alright, I won't bother you then. Feel free to do your thing." "Sis Chi, I'm heading to the training room." After greeting her, Jingming didn't linger. He politely excused himself and walked directly toward the training area. This calm and composed behavior left Tang Chi with a strange feeling. Her brows furrowed slightly. He seemed very different from how he used to be. Next to Tang Chi, a cute girl in a dress asked curiously, her big, clear eyes full of interest. Chi, who was that guy just now? He's kinda handsome." Tang Chi replied while keeping her gaze on Jingming's fading figure. "That's Jingming, my cousin. He's also in 12th grade and taking the martial science exam tomorrow. Same as us." A boy nearby chuckled and teased. "Doing your homework, huh? Don't tell me you're falling for him already. Looking for a boyfriend?" The girl named Xiaoya didn't even deny it. She casually admitted, "So what if I am? Is that not allowed?" With a face like that, as long as his strength isn't terrible, there's nothing wrong with dating him. "But I'm afraid you'll be disappointed," Tang Chi said as she shook her head, as if already predicting their reactions. Sure enough, when she added, "His ability is only rank E," the sparkle in Xiaoya's eyes immediately dimmed by more than half. Her tone also turned indifferent. "Only rank E? What a shame." The young man who overheard this scoffed and looked in Jingming's direction with mockery. "A rank E and he dares to take the martial science exam? Now that takes guts." Tang Chi sighed softly. "Being brave won't get you far. With risks that high, it's probably better not to take the exam at all." "Alright, that's enough of that talk." Someone said, "We came to Thunderclap Martial Hall today just to check it out." "Yeah, I've been training at Violent Bear for all 3 years of high school. This is my first time visiting Thunderclap. A bit of relaxation before the exam helps clear the mind. Good for both body and soul." With that, the group stopped discussing Jingming and shifted the conversation to other topics as they wandered around the martial hall. Elsewhere, Jingming had no idea that his departure had stirred up so much chatter behind his back. At this moment, he had already entered a private training room of just over 20 square meters. This was one of the solo training rooms provided by Thunderclap Martial Hall for individual practice. Normally, booking in advance was required to use this type of room. But today, since it wasn't crowded, Jingming was able to use one directly without registering. He took the long spear off his back and gripped it firmly in his hands. First, he wanted to test his peak physical strength without using any abilities. Weapons used by ability users were typically forged by companies specializing in high-grade weapon manufacturing. This particular spear was made from F-grade alloy, its body coated in a deep, dark sheen that exuded raw power. When he gave it a slight shake, the shaft let out a low metallic hum that echoed throughout the room. But that small shake made him pause. "The spear feels lighter? No, it's not the weapon, it's me." His body had become stronger, making the weapon feel much lighter in his hands. Jingming frowned slightly. The college entrance exam was starting tomorrow. And right now, he didn't have enough money to switch to a heavier weapon. With no other choice, he'd have to use this one carefully. The long spear had been Jingming's weapon of choice since the age of 12. It had been almost 6 full years of training. Basic moves like thrusting, sweeping, striking, and slashing, he had already mastered them all. Inside the room, his figure moved with fierce agility. Spear shadows flying like a black phantom. The air trembled as his momentum surged, like a ferocious tiger descending from the mountains. When he thrust the spear into the power measuring machine, a loud impact reverberated. As Jingming withdrew the spear, the metal target slowly began to return to its original shape. At the same time, a clear number appeared on the nearby digital display, 321 cal. In this world, cal, short for caler, was the standard unit used to measure attack power. Jingming felt a wave of excitement surge within him. Relying on pure physical strength alone, his attack power had nearly doubled compared to before. Ordinary people, or even regular ability users, could usually only output around 100 cal of destructive force. Before today, Jingming's unassisted strength was only about 140 cal. Then, with just a thought, Violet Heaven Divine Thunder was summoned. In that instant, his entire body seemed to transform into a thunder god. Dark purple lightning erupted around him, crackling with intense arcs that echoed throughout the room. Jingming raised his hand and casually pointed forward. A bolt of lightning shot forth, infused with violent energy, and struck the alloy target dead on. This time, the alloy plate dented inward significantly. It took nearly 7 or 8 full seconds to slowly recover its shape. At that moment, the smart display next to it lit up again, revealing a shocking number, 3012 cal. Jingming couldn't help but take in a sharp breath. An S-rank ability was truly terrifying. Its power was nearly 10 times greater than his physical strength alone. A typical beginner-level ability user could only output around 1000 cal in total. But right now, even though he hadn't officially reached level 1, he was already displaying strength on par with a mid-tier level 1 ability user. But 3000 cal still wasn't his limit. Jingming took a deep breath. In that instant, the violet lightning of the Violet Heaven Divine Thunder surged across the entire length of the spear in his hand. Flash storm piercing thrust. In that very moment, a brilliant arc of thunder exploded within the training room. The spear in his hands seemed to transform into a black-violet flood dragon, roaring as it tore through the air toward the alloy target on the wall. When the lightning finally dispersed, the alloy target embedded in the wall had been completely incinerated. A gaping, scorched hole had formed at the center, one that could no longer regenerate. A deafening boom like a thunderclap erupted. Lightning crackled wildly, and the entire training room trembled as if rocked by an earthquake. The shockwave quickly spread, shaking the entire martial arts center. Even the floor beneath their feet rumbled slightly, followed by a sharp, metallic impact that rang out with ear-piercing intensity. A male student, startled, blurted out, "That energy, it's way too strong." At his level, he was already a C-rank mental-type ability user, so he was extremely sensitive to energy fluctuations. Xiaoya furrowed her brows, looking puzzled. Isn't this floor supposed to be only for high school students? All the freaks from Zhong City's high schoolers who've already awakened as full-fledged ability users, aren't they all training over at Violent Bear Martial Hall? Could it be one of them dropped by to train here instead? Or maybe, a high schooler just broke through and became an ability user? Let's go check it out. That sudden shockwave instantly sparked the group's curiosity. Tang Qi and her 3 friends quickly turned and made their way toward the source of the blast. They moved quickly down the corridor and turned a corner, only to suddenly run into Jingming, who was walking from the opposite direction. Tang Qi was briefly stunned. She hadn't expected to run into him again, but she quickly recovered and asked, "Heading home?" Jingming nodded. He said he had just finished training and wanted to leave early to get in some more final preparations. Though she still thought it was foolish for someone with an E-rank ability like Jingming to even try taking the martial science exam. Tang Qi still offered him some encouragement. She wished him good luck and reminded him to stay safe. Her group didn't linger. They continued onward to find the source of the earlier massive shockwave. There weren't that many training rooms on this floor, so it didn't take long for them to find the one that had just been used, the very room Jingming had trained in. When they looked inside, all 4 of them froze. Even Tang Qi, usually the calmest and most composed of the group, couldn't help but gape in shock. The entire room looked as if it had been blown apart. Xiaoya exclaimed in shock, "My god, even the memory metal was shattered. Just how powerful was that attack? Is there really any high school student in this city strong enough to do something like this?" A young man nearby looked horrified. From the lingering traces of energy, he could still feel the wild and violent force. Whoever did this, if they're not at least a level 2 ability user, then they must be at the peak of level 1. This guy probably used the training room just to test his power. Another person chimed in, "That can't be a high school student. It's probably some rogue ability user who didn't follow the rules and wandered up to the 3rd floor, then used the training room to test their strength. No high schooler in this city is that strong." Exactly, someone else agreed. Peak level 1. Even the capital city might not have a talent like that. There's no way a person like that would appear in Zhong City. At that moment, Xiaoya suddenly had a bold thought. She reminded everyone that Jingming had just been there earlier. Could he be the one who did this? She wondered aloud. He's actually a genius, a hidden talent who's been concealing his strength. waiting for the college entrance exam tomorrow to make his name. Her idea was immediately dismissed by the group of boys. They told her she'd been reading too many online novels about the pig pretending to be a tiger types. They couldn't believe she'd entertained such a ridiculous thought. After all, hiding one's true strength wasn't that simple. Besides, Jingming was an E rank awakened. If he could even reach a power level of 300, that would already be considered lucky. The hallway had 2 exits leading outside, which explained why they hadn't seen who was responsible for the destruction. One of the young men turned to a girl in the distance, Tang Chi, and asked what she thought about the whole situation. Tang Chi also believed that what they were saying could be true. At the moment, she was inspecting the marks left on the wall. She noticed the round hole in the wall and thought it looked like it had been made by a spear. She began to wonder whether it really was Jingming who caused all this, and if that was the reason he seemed so confident about taking the martial arts entrance exam. There were 3 high schools in the city. Among all the 12th grade students, there were about 3,000 in total. Excluding those who were taking the liberal arts exam, there were still roughly 1,400 students registered for the martial arts exam. To transport all 1,400 students to the exam site, the city had mobilized over 40 large buses. The college entrance exam was a major national event. One by one, the buses stopped at a large open field, and the students filed out. In the distance stood an area surrounded by steel fencing. Every year, on June 7th, it transformed into the testing site for the martial arts portion of the National College Entrance Exam. The difficulty and danger of the test depended on the species and levels of the beasts present. Among the rubble, faint silhouettes of dangerous beasts flickered in and out of view. Ferocious growls and roars echoed from deep within. "So, that's our exam site," someone muttered in disbelief. "I think I just saw a one-horned rhino." "A one-horned rhino? No way," another gasped. "Don't tell me this year's test is that insane." As they caught sight of the beast hiding among the ruins through the steel fencing, many students went pale. The sight of it made their spirits tremble, and some looked like they were on the verge of a breakdown. When one student saw how terrified the others looked, he scoffed and said irritably, "So what if it's a one-horned rhino? If you can't even handle a beast of that level, then even if you're lucky enough to get into a special abilities university, you won't accomplish anything." The voice suddenly rang out from the middle of the crowd, overpowering all the murmurs and chatter. It came from a young man dressed in a light blue combat uniform, looking like a swordsman from ancient times, with a long sword in hand. Several students turned around angrily, ready to argue back, until they saw who it was. Instantly, they fell silent, awkward and unwilling to say another word. Seeing this, Jingming became curious. He turned to the tall male student beside him, who had a shield and a saber strapped to his back, and asked, "Who's that guy? He talks pretty arrogantly." The tall student, named Lu Jia, had a C-rank enhancement ability with a specialty in body enlargement. He replied, "That's Chu Mingyang, from First High School." It was said that Chu Mingyang was the top student at First High. He possessed a B-rank elemental wind ability, and his power had already broken through the unranked stage. Nearing level 1, Jingming was surprised to learn that the arrogant youth was actually Chu Mingyang, the very one predicted to be this year's top scorer. He couldn't help but wonder, between the two of them, who would prove to be stronger. Just then, a middle-aged man in military uniform shouted for everyone to gather and remain silent. With just a single sweep of his eyes, the entire field, once filled with chatter, immediately fell silent. "I am Wang Haiyang, the chief commander of this year's Zhang City Martial Arts College entrance exam," he announced. "Before the test begins, I need to go over some important reminders. The martial arts exam starts at 9 a.m. and ends at 9 p.m., lasting a total of 12 hours. The exam site is the ruined town behind me. As with previous years, this area is divided into 3 zones: the outer zone, the central zone, and the core zone. The outer zone contains unranked beasts. The central zone includes peak unranked beasts as well as level 1 beasts. The core zone has nothing but level 1 beasts and above. And in core zone 1, you'll encounter high-tier level 1 beasts and even level 2 beasts. Killing different types of beasts will earn you corresponding points. The higher the beast's level and strength, the more points you'll earn upon defeating them. However, he continued with emphasis, You all must understand your own limits and choose an appropriate zone to operate in. The central zone is meant only for top-performing students. You should stay within safe zones to avoid unnecessary casualties. The corners of Jingming's lips curled into a smile. If it had been before, he would have only dared to take on beasts in the outer zone. But now, not only was he confident enough to step into the core zone, he was even ready to challenge core zone 1. Alright, we'll now begin distributing supplies. Everyone, head to your class's designated area to collect your gear. Each examinee received a backpack containing 3 items. A smartwatch, which records the number and type of beasts killed and keeps track of points. It also includes a digital map of the ruined town to help with navigation. 3 compressed energy bars, which rapidly restore stamina once eaten. A safety sphere, a green ball that, when activated, generates a high-voltage electric barrier around the user. Standard beasts cannot penetrate it. When the teacher handed Jingming his gear, he reminded him with concern. Keep in mind, once you activate the safety sphere, it means your exam is over. I want to stress this. Your life is the most important thing. Don't act recklessly out there. Jingming smiled and sincerely thanked him for his concern. In the martial arts entrance exam, students were allowed to form teams. Of course, any points earned from defeating beasts in a group would be evenly split among all members, making it far less efficient than fighting solo. Because of that, even students who originally intended to go solo began seeking teammates. Jingming, you're not in a group yet. Right, why not join ours? Our team is missing an offensive support. Your lightning ability would fill that gap perfectly. The one who spoke was a beautiful girl with a gentle smile on her face. Her name was Lin Qingyan, class president of Class 5, a kind, helpful person known for always lending a hand to others. Seeing her trying to invite Jingming, several students from her group couldn't help but speak up. If you want to play the good person, at least pick the right time. This is the martial arts entrance exam. Each team is limited to 5 members. If we bring in someone weak like Jingming, we'll never score high. You're going back on what we agreed on. Who would have thought he'd even dare register for the martial exam? Either way, I don't want him dragging us down. Internal disagreements quickly flared within the group. Witnessing this, Jingming politely declined the invitation. It's fine, I'll go in alone. Lu Jia and Lin Qingyan both looked at him with concern. Are you serious? Lu Jia asked. Just be careful. Alright. Lin Qingyan looked like she wanted to keep persuading him, but when she met Jingming's resolute gaze, she could only sigh and turn away, disappointed. Well, at least he knows his place. A few members in her group muttered in relief. Since Lin Qingyan was the team leader, they hadn't wanted to outright oppose her. Still, letting an E-rank like Jingming join the team would have definitely dragged down their average score. Jingming, however, was confident that with his current power, he could achieve a high score all on his own. The gate leading into the ruined town was pulled open by soldiers. Wang Haiyang stepped up to the platform once more and announced, "The 2037 Zhang City Martial Arts Entrance Exam officially begins. Examinees, enter the test site." As soon as the words left his mouth, over 1,400 examinees sprang into action. The exam started. This time, I've got to stand out. My goal is Zhongnan Ability University. With expectations and dreams in their hearts, the students, clad in combat gear and wielding various weapons, swarmed into the ruined town like a massive wave of locusts. Amidst this boiling atmosphere, Jingming also drew his spear and charged forward with the crowd. The ruined town resembled a gaping maw, swallowing all the students whole. The once bustling field outside was quickly emptied. All the surveillance cameras within the town were activated, along with UAVs filming from above, preparing to broadcast the exam live. In the Great Sha Nation, martial arts were held in the highest regard. Every year, the martial entrance exam was broadcast live nationwide. These combat scenes weren't just monitored by the Education Bureau, school principals, and homeroom teachers, but also shown to 10th and 11th grade students in schools across the country. Though the ruined town had once been a mere village under Zhang City's jurisdiction, its area was vast, with over 1,400 students entering. It only felt crowded near the entrance. Once deeper inside, they dispersed like a drop of water falling into the sea. Jingming picked a direction and moved forward with his spear in hand, activating the smart watch on his wrist. Immediately, A translucent blue screen appeared in front of him with a prompt. Please verify your identity on the smartwatch. Unfazed, Jingming placed his left thumb on the screen. Verifying fingerprint. Verification complete. Candidate. Jingming. Grade 12. Class 5. Zhong City No. 2 High School. Examinee ID. In the upper right corner of the interface, two small display boxes popped up. One showed Jingming's current score, and the other displayed the Zhong City Martial Arts Exam leaderboard. Rank 1. Chu Mingyang 7 points. So fast already. No wonder he's the top student at First High. Jingming thought. He's already killed a beast. Looks like it's time for me to get moving too. On the digital map, Jingming's current location appeared as a white dot near the edge. He was still far from the central zone. All right, I'll head straight for it. He adjusted his direction and sprinted toward the red zone on the map. He hadn't gone far when he spotted a student lying motionless on the ground. As he approached, he realized the student was seriously injured. The safety sphere hadn't even been activated in time. This was exactly the kind of tragedy his teacher had warned him about. A chill ran down Jingming's spine. If I didn't have an S-rank ability, my end might have been the same, he thought grimly. He quickly contacted the support personnel to help the injured student. Though worried, Jingming didn't regret entering the exam. After all, opportunity always came hand in hand with danger. Just then, the sound of footsteps suddenly echoed from behind. Catching Jingming's attention, he turned around and saw a beast covered in jet black fur. Its eyes a pale amber orange. If not for the blood-stained claws and razor-sharp fangs, it could almost be considered a beautiful creature. It's a shadow cat. They were fast, with sharp claws and teeth, and a bite force exceeding 1,000 kilograms. Many examinees had lost their lives to shadow panthers. Jingming immediately realized he had fallen right into its trap. Jingming immediately recognized the identity of this monster. It was a type of creature extremely common in the wilderness. Of course, common didn't mean that a dark cat was easy to deal with. On the contrary, the fact that they were so widespread only proved how well they adapted to their environment. Upon spotting a human, the dark cat let out a bloodthirsty roar, then bounded forward on all fours toward Jingming. The scent of fresh flesh stirred its appetite, making it rush forward even faster. Normally, awakeners facing a monster for the first time would panic. However, even though this was Jingming's first real encounter with a dark cat, his expression remained completely calm. The dark cat closed to within 3 meters of him, then leapt high, claws outstretched, aiming straight for Jingming's head in a vicious downward strike. If that blow landed, his head would burst like a ripe watermelon. But just as it lunged, Jingming quickly sidestepped to evade. He had studied the guidebooks thoroughly and, with the enhanced stats granted by the system, his speed was now impressive. Having missed its prey, the dark cat grew even more furious. It began to growl, baring its razor-sharp fangs at Jingming. Its blood-red eyes locked onto him as it prepared for its next attack. Jingming readied his weapon. According to what he knew, these monsters were classified as pressure beasts because they could emit a powerful oppressive aura that often overwhelmed first-time awakeners, reducing their combat capability to less than 30%, or even rendering them completely unable to fight due to fear. That's why, before the martial arts college entrance exam, families with connections would often hire professional ability users as bodyguards to escort their children into the wilderness, helping them get used to fighting monsters in advance. Jingming, of course, didn't have such resources. Before the exam, he had assumed that if he truly encountered a monster, his body might instinctively react negatively. Yet when he faced the dark cat, he felt nothing at all in response to its savage aura. In fact, he was as calm as ever, precisely calculating the trajectory of the dark cat's leap. At the perfect moment, he thrust his spear straight into the creature's body. Bright red blood gushed forth like water from a burst main artery. It was said that most awakeners needed several battles to overcome the fear of facing such powerful creatures. But some people were simply born immune to that oppressive aura. It seemed he was one of those rare cases. With a sudden pull of his right arm, Jingming used the momentum to yank the spear free from the dark cat's neck. Thud! The creature's body hit the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. The system score counter instantly updated. Successfully eliminated a level 0 dark cat. plus 3 ability points earned. Note: monsters are classified from level 1 to level 9. Creatures below level 1 are called level 0 monsters. If it weren't for the system notification, he might have forgotten that killing monsters granted ability points. Seeing the plus 3 points appear on his system panel, excitement welled up in his chest. This meant that in future battles, if he earned enough points, his strength could grow even further. Still, earning so little from killing this cat was inefficient. He needed to get to the central area as quickly as possible. Jingming had no prior experience fighting monsters and had originally planned to stay in the outskirts to get more familiar with combat. But since he didn't have any strong reaction to a monster's aura, remaining in the outer zone no longer held much meaning. So, he gripped his spear tightly and dashed with all his strength toward the central area of the ruined town. Compared to Chu Min Duang, who possessed a wind-type ability, Jingming's speed wasn't considered particularly fast. However, along the way, he still managed to continuously take down monsters. Killed a level 0 monster, Iron-Furred Boar, plus 5 ability points. Killed a level 0 monster, Dark Cat, plus 3 ability points. Killed a level 0 monster, One-Horned Rhino, plus 6 ability points. In his battles against these monsters, Hua Gun Min never once used his ability. He wanted to train his spear techniques and accumulate combat experience. After all, against these level 0 creatures, using the S-rank, Violet Sky Divine Thunder, would simply result in instant kills, offering no real training value. Moreover, the rarer the ability, the greater the energy consumption. His previous E-rank ability, Weak Lightning, could be maintained at full power for over 3 hours. But his current S-rank ability, Violet Sky Divine Thunder, would probably last less than an hour at full output. It had to be remembered, the Martial Arts University entrance exam lasted a full 12 hours. If he exhausted his ability too early, by the time he reached the core zone and faced mid to high-level Tier 1 monsters, he would have no other means of attack. That was why he could only refrain from using his ability for now, saving it for the core area. Additionally, after each battle, Jingming could clearly feel his improvement. These fights built upon one another, rapidly sharpening his combat sense and spear skills at a shocking rate. In particular, his spear technique was becoming smoother and more natural, to the point where he could wield it freely at will, a sensation he had never experienced before. He suspected he had unknowingly achieved a breakthrough in spear mastery. On a cracked, ruined street, Jingming spotted a monster. It was as large as a small car, with a single sharp horn on its head like a blade, thick and sturdy limbs, and dark brown skin. It radiated a ferocious aura. This was one of the monsters contestants least wanted to face, the One-Horned Rhino. Upon seeing Jingming, the monster charged forward like a German tank, smashing through everything in its path. Despite its massive size, its speed was not slow at all. As it closed in, Jingming stayed calm. He leapt into the air and, with pinpoint accuracy, flipped mid-air before driving his spear in a violent thrust straight into its brain, destroying the most vital part of its nervous system. The One-Horned Rhino died instantly. Pulling his spear free, some red and white matter came out along with it. For an average person, suddenly facing such a scene would likely trigger immediate vomiting if they had a weak stomach. But Hua Gun Min's expression remained calm. He even opened his system panel right away. Name: Hua Gun Min. Rank: Awakener. Ability: Violet Sky Divine Thunder, S. Physique: 141 blood energy. Spirit: 160 Hz. Skills: Spear Technique, Intermediate. Flashing Lightning Gale Break. Ability points: 213. Sure enough, his spear technique had broken through to Intermediate. Jingming's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Real combat truly was the best way to improve one's strength. Intermediate spear technique already felt comfortable to use, so what would it be like if he upgraded it further? After a brief moment of hesitation, Jingming could no longer resist the temptation and directly tapped the plus sign next to spear technique. Instantly, countless spear-related techniques surged into his mind like a tidal wave. This wasn't like those memory downloads in movies, where you watch it once and forget it right away. No, this felt exactly like the result of personally training the spear for decades through sweat and blood. Once the memory transmission process was complete, Jingming, who had once believed that spear technique wasn't as important as the two basic stats, physique and spirit, now realized just how wrong he had been. With spear technique upgraded to advanced, his thrusting speed doubled. He had completely mastered every skill related to the spear. No matter the opponent, he could find a way to counter them. If only he had more ability points. He truly wanted to see just how terrifying a master-level spear technique would be. Jingming decided to push deeper into the central area, where high-level monsters roamed. There, his ability point gains would be even faster. Just as he left, several other examinees appeared at the far end of the opposite street. It was a group of 5, 1 girl and 4 boys. Leading them was Class 5's monitor, Lam Kin Dean, who had invited Jingming to join their team before the exam began. Lam Kin Yen scanned her surroundings and seemed to spot a figure that looked strikingly like Jingming. The sight left her surprised. When the others heard her say this, they assumed she was seeing things. They believed there was no way he could be in this area, at his current strength. Showing up here would be suicide. Still, Lam Kin Yen felt uneasy. Did I really mistake him for someone else? That person just now looked so much like him. I wonder how he's doing now. Captain, come take a look. This one-horned rhino looks like it hasn't been dead for long. A startled cry drew Lam Kin Yen's attention. The group quickly rushed over and surrounded the one-horned rhino's corpse, chattering amongst themselves. The blood around its wounds hadn't yet dried, meaning it had died within the last few minutes. Its body bore many injuries, but the fatal wound was on its head. Judging by the shape of the injury, it seemed to be a penetrating wound caused by a long-shafted weapon, something that looked a lot like a spear. Lam Kin Dean was momentarily stunned. Do you think Jingming could have killed this one-horned rhino? I really did see someone who looked just like him earlier. One of the male students spoke with a strange expression. The one-horned rhino is an extremely difficult monster to deal with. It's the kind of beast only C-rank awakeners can kill alone. Are you saying an E-rank awakener could take one down solo? Whether he did it or not, we can just check his ranking, right? Another male student pulled up his smartwatch and quickly found Jingming's name on the leaderboard. Rank 46. Jingming, 256 points. Zhang City number 2 High School. Jingming, rank 46? The hell? He made it into the top 50? Did I see that right? The boys were first frozen in shock, then cried out like they'd seen a ghost. No way. What the hell? Since when could an E-rank awakener be this strong? I don't buy it. On the open ground outside the ruined town, 10 massive projection screens were displaying live footage, feeds captured by military-grade drones, tracking the examinees currently ranked in the top 10. Beneath these giant displays were thousands of tiny screens, images from fixed cameras set up throughout the ruined town, only enlarged to the main display when necessary. Below the screens, in a temporary spectator stand, the leaders of the Education Bureau, along with principals and teachers from various schools, were commenting on the students in the rankings. Rank 1. Chu Min Duang, 412 points. Looks like he's begun a massacre in the central area. His mobility skills are truly outstanding. His marching speed could easily rival those in the provincial capital's martial arts exams. No matter how you put it, Principal Liu is still the most impressive. Almost the entire top 10 are students from your school. Among them, a middle-aged man in a suit with short hair was the focus of conversation. This was Trong Van Sun, director of the Zhang City Education Bureau, who nodded in satisfaction. Chu Min Duang is Zhang City's trump card. In this year's martial arts exam, he should be able to make it into the top 100 in all of Jiangnan province. He then looked toward Lu Hang, the principals of high school number 1 and number 3, praising them for doing an excellent job training such outstanding talents for the city. Then, turning to the principal of Zhang City High School number 2, he told him to reflect and work harder. As the highest-ranked student from his school was only in 18th place, principal of number 2, Duang Diu, lowered his head in embarrassment, promising to do better. It was worth noting that in previous years, his school had always dominated number 3 high school. But this year, the situation seemed reversed. Duang Diu scrolled through the rankings for a long time before realizing that only 8 students from his school had made it into the top 50. The martial arts exam results directly determined the distribution of education funding for each school. Because of that, Guangju was well aware of most of his school's top students, but the name, Jingming, was completely unfamiliar to him. Probably just a hidden talent student from a regular class. He thought, I'll ask the homeroom teacher later. He didn't take it seriously, after all. With so many students, it wasn't unusual to have one or two hiding their abilities. However, unlike the principal's indifference, in the back row, the homeroom teacher of class 12A5 at number 2 high school, Tran Pham, was stunned. He knew Jingming very well. The boy was only an E-rank ability user. How could he possibly be in the top 50? What's more, he was currently the highest-ranked student in all of class 12A5. It was unbelievable. Could he have been hiding his true power? But no matter how well you hid it, an E-rank ability couldn't suddenly become S-rank. Then how had he managed to score so high? Tran Pham couldn't figure it out. The martial arts exam was all real combat against monsters. There was absolutely no room for cheating. Unfortunately, the main screen only displayed the top 10, while the thousands of fixed camera feeds below were too dense to make out. Finding Jingming's footage in that mess was basically impossible. Inside the ruined town, after half an hour of marching, Jingming finally entered the central area. Compared to the outskirts, the central area had far fewer monsters. Along the way, he could hear roars echoing in the distance. The air was thick with the stench of blood and an aura of violence. Jingming gripped his spear firmly, a nutrient bark clenched between his teeth, his combat boots crunching over an old, rusty can by the roadside. As he moved, he stayed alert, knowing that high-level monsters often had a certain degree of intelligence and a strong sense of territoriality. Growl. While he was deep in thought, a low roar rang out, and a monster suddenly lunged from the rubble. Its shape was somewhat like a tiger's, but its body was at least 5 times larger. Its fur was a mix of yellow and black, and most striking of all were the bone blades protruding from its forelimbs, sharp as knives. Though clearly bone, they gleamed with a metallic sheen. Behind it lashed a whip-like tail. Level 1 beast, Blade Claw Tiger. Jingming narrowed his eyes. Like the cat before, the Blade Claw Tiger was a fairly common monster. Looks like my luck's not bad. Just entered the central area and already found a level 1 beast. The corner of his lips lifted slightly.
Thanks for watching. I'm going to introduce the new manhwa in different voices.